Hey there, entrepreneurs. My name is Sushant, and welcome to Trip Talks. This is the show where I interview successful e commerce entrepreneurs, business executives, and thought leaders and ask them questions about their business story and also dive deep into some of the strategies and tactics that they have used to start and grow their businesses. And today, I'm really excited to welcome Becca Davison to the show. Becca is the co
Right.
inventor and co founder of UnbuckleMe, which is an innovative patented tool that makes it easy to open kids' car seat buckles. And today I'm going to ask Becca a few questions about her entrepreneurial journey and some of the strategies and tactics that she has used to start and grow her business. So thank you so much for joining me today at Trip Talks today.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
So very, very interesting product. Can you
Yeah.
share a little bit about the startup story of how you got started? I believe you collaborated with your mom on
That's
this
right.
product.
Sure. Happy to share. So my background is not necessarily in entrepreneurship. So this was definitely a career pivot for me, kind of an unexpected invention that took me down this path. I was born in Houston and I grew up here and lived in New York City for a while after graduating from college, and then moved back home to Houston to start a family. And after my first daughter was born, I was living close to my mom, and she had offered to help me out with childcare during the week when I went back to work, and which was a great setup. But after maybe a few months, my daughter started getting older, more mobile. She wanted to take her out in the car. So we got her a car seat, and she quickly realized that because of some arthritis in her thumb, she could not press the red button on the car seat. And it sounds kind of silly, but it's actually quite significant. Those buttons, we've learned, require 9 pounds of pressure so that kids can't unbuckle themselves. And we're talking about the 5 point harness that kind of goes over their shoulders. It's much harder to push, actually federally regulated to make those buckles quite hard to push for children. So it's intended to be that way. They're more difficult than an adult seatbelt in a vehicle. And she couldn't do it because the way it's built, it requires you to really just use your thumb. And she's very active, very mobile in many other ways, but that joint is sore, and it's very common among older women to have some degradation and arthritis in that joint. So that was really the problem that kind of set us down this path. And my mom spent her career as an occupational therapist, and so her background was to create and sort of develop adaptive tools and solutions for her patients that had spinal cord injuries or rehabilitation post-surgery or various needs. So this was really top of mind for her to just create a solution to her own problem. And that's really how we got started. And my mom had basically invented this thing and was using it. And I saw it and thought, this is really cool. And you can't be the only one on the planet that has this challenge and this
Mm.
problem. So I suggested that we start a business. And so I run the business side of things. I have a business background. And so my mom is more of the creative inventor, and I'm kind of the business side of things. So it's
So
been
did
fun.
you like, I mean, it's one thing to say, there could be a market out there. How did you actually do some sort of test or talk to people to kind of know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great question because it's a really, really important step, because this path is it's expensive and it's laborious, so you definitely want to make sure you test the market. So we did. I mean, I'm a mom. I had a lot of friends. So certainly the first step was sort of look around at different friends, and I started asking, do your parents have trouble with car seat buckles? Is this a common challenge? And we did some research. Google's great, just sort of statistically how many parents are taking care of, or grandparents are taking care of their grandkids. We started to learn, there's a lot of disabilities that cause sort of limitations and degradation of hand strength, even things like carpal tunnel that are quite common, cerebral palsy, any sort of spinal cord injury. There's a lot of things that can cause people's hands, to be weaker than they would like them to be, especially when handling kids. So the biggest probably step that we took to really research it, and it was sort of funny timing, as we learned about a juvenile products trade show that was taking place in the fall, and it was like a month away, and it just sort of the timing worked out, and also just felt like a big step, sort of a line in the sand of like, let's actually pursue this
Mm.
idea. So we called them up and we sort of got a last minute spot, and we did exhibit, but it was like an inventors kind of area, so it was a smaller section.
Mm.
but it was at the Las Vegas Convention Center. So that was our first step into really the industry. And we met with, buyers from Target, from Walmart, from juvenile products stores. We talked to, media people that write about juvenile products. We talked to safety experts. Like we just really, that was the best, I think, opportunity for us to meet. Obviously, this was pre-COVID, so it was a great opportunity to network with the industry and really learn about, if we are going to enter this space with a product, a consumer product, like what does that look like? What does the price look like? What does it need to be made out of? What are the regulatory considerations? So that was a big step we took to research. But a lot of it we did, from home and just from word of mouth and friends. So I think you can do, Facebook's a great place to kind of run surveys or just post in different groups and communities and sort of see what the response is. So yeah, I think that's a really important step.
And did you have a prototype at that point? Like, did you, when your mother created this, did she just put together some, what was like that first thing? And then how did you go from there to having like a proper prototype that you can show?
Yeah, that's a great question. So my mom had some splint material, which is like a thermoplastic stretchy material that they make splints, like hand splints out of after you've had surgery or whatever. So she had some of that on hand because that's her background. And so she grabbed some of that, and she remembers, it being, and she's retired, but when she used to work in the clinic, she would stretch it and sort of make these different custom splints. And a lot of the concepts, with rubber bands and leverage and counter leverage, just sort of, they would use those things like rubber bands to strengthen joints in the hand. So she's familiar with a lot of those concepts. And so when she thought about how am I going to solve this problem, effectively, she was thinking, okay, I have to use a material that's sort of hard. Like she was going after the concept of leverage because that's how you reduce. I mean, there's simple it's really a simple machine. So if you think about physics, it's like there's only so many ways you can reduce force and gain leverage. So for her, it was like, how do I get sort of a torque concept around this buckle? And so that led her to, just sort of figuring out how we can have some backing around the back of it and sort of use a lever. It's like an old fashioned nutcracker is kind of the concept I think that she had in her head. But she used that material to make, I wouldn't even call it a prototype at the time, because at the time it was just this, kind of funny gadget that she was using for herself. But that was our kind of initial thing. And then once we got serious about, or semi-serious about, let's make a product, I think we made hundreds of iterations of kind of what that prototype should be and what it would look like. And then finally kind of sat down with an engineer and kind of helped us get the CAD kind of to a place. And then we continued to do 3D prints and tweak. So it was a really long process. My mom and I are both a bit perfectionistic. And so it was just kind of iterative of test and learn. And we sent out, 3D prints to people and said, try it. Does this work? What would you change about it? So it was a long process. I mean, definitely end to end, probably close to a year to when we really had our product on the market.
So, I mean, you really have to be committed to the idea to like really put that kind of effort and probably some financial investment also in like the engineering design and all creating the prototype and everything. So, but one thing I'm very curious about is when I looked at the product, of course, it's a great product. The first thought that came to my mind was, I was thinking, is there a way to tie this to like a keychain or something? But is there some mechanism to put it on because, if you're thinking about car, like you don't want to carry this on your, okay, it does have it.
Yeah, there's like a little loop here we did put on, and that's a great point. That was a piece of feedback that I'll say that we got that idea from a lot of the product testers that we sent around samples, 3D printed samples. And a lot of them said like, it would be great if it had a little loop on it. We were like, oh, that's a great idea. We didn't like think of that ourselves, but that's a good addition to the product. But it's interesting because more and more cars now, people are using keyless cars and they're leaving it in their purse. And so I think keychains becoming less the convenient spot. I still think the best place is either just like hook it on something in the car, like the visor, or keep it in the side pocket of your car. So personally, I don't use that loop a lot, but I know a lot of people do. So that was a feature we got from, some of that market research.
Cool. So in terms of the target market, I mean, this would really be more towards a very specific kind of a person who is maybe on a little bit older side. They have, some mobility issues in the hand. Is that really the focus target market? Is that what you find the kind of people who are all really buying this product?
So that's probably I'd say it's probably 60% of it. So that is probably the bulk of it. But I don't know if you watched our Shark Tank episode, but that was one thing Kevin O'Leary was really, saying like, is this kind of a niche small thing? Smaller market, you gotta have grandparents, you gotta have kids. But what I think has been surprising to us is that, and probably a bit of luck, I saw you had a question there about luck, but what we learned when we started seeing product reviews for this was that a lot of younger families are buying it and then passing it back to a 4-year-old in the third row, for instance, instead of having to crawl all the way back there to unbuckle them. Pass this back, they can unbuckle themselves, pass it back up, and hop out of the car really easily. So it's really a kind of a game changer for like the carpool drop-off line or a scenario like that. So that's probably another 30% of our market. And actually it may even be more. It may be closer to 50% of the market, 50% being, or 40%. And then I'd say the other sort of small segment, and for us it's probably 10%, are people with long fingernails. So acrylic nails, or they don't want to, you can kind of use this to get your so you're not just mashing your thumb into the car seat buckle. So that was two surprising markets that we discovered as we started to pursue it. Initially, yes, we were very much focused on arthritis and disability and grandparents and such, but it sort of broadened it. And so now, we focus pretty heavily on the back to school, kids sort of carpool line scenario. That's been really a big market for us.
Cool. I wanted to ask you about the patent side of things. I know, with something like this, which is a unique kind of a product, you want to patent the idea, you want to patent the design. But when I was looking around, I went on Amazon and I saw there were a couple of similar products and maybe even similar names also. And, they're selling it. Some of them actually have probably even improved the design a little bit. So at least from what I saw, I don't know the quality of it, but what are your thoughts on this? Like, you probably spent some good amount of money patenting this. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, patents are an interesting thing. I think, for a product like this, it's been extremely important. For every, knockoff you see on Amazon, we've gotten rid of probably 100 behind it. So we are every month we submit to Amazon and they take them down, and or probably twice a month now. It's kind of a routine thing just to get them all taken down. And Amazon's got some really great pilot programs now where they're helping with enforcement, which is making it a lot easier for small businesses like us to enforce our patent versus having to, take someone to court like you used to, which is financially cost prohibitive for a small business. So we are still actively, kind of monitoring it. I mean, patents are an interesting thing, and I could talk a long time about patents. It's sort of, especially for a product like this, you get a patent for sort of the novelty element of it, but there are aspects of it that are, simple and obvious. And so you can't patent everything about it, right? You can't patent like a C-shaped piece of plastic. Like, you have to sort of narrow it enough to make it sort of defined by what you've created and invented. So it's a bit of a dance. Sometimes you get people that kind of come in and argue, well, I'm not infringing because it's a little bit different in this way, and that's different than the way you wrote your claims in your patent. So we've got a little bit of that. So it's a complicated thing. I think on the whole, we've really focused on having the best product out there. We're the only product that's got any sort of like overmold, soft touch feel. Like the quality of this, material is really, really top notch. It's got two, got an overmold and an undermold. So that took kind of an extra leap of the manufacturing to make it like this. And I think that's one thing that really sets us apart. And just the brand, that we were on Shark Tank and that we were the first and that we have the story behind it. And so that's why, I like talking to people like you. It's just trying to get our story out so that people understand, like, yes, a lot of creativity, a lot of time, a lot of sweat and tears went into this. And we hope people, we're doing well enough. And so we're happy if we lose a little bit of sales to those knockoffs. It's sad, but it's not worth putting a lot of energy and stress into. We do what we can, certainly from an enforcement standpoint, but they're always going to pop up every week. I go on Amazon and there's new knockoffs. So it's discouraging, but I can't let it ruin my day.
Definitely. You mentioned Kevin O'Leary. So I definitely watched the Shark Tank episode. It was a great episode. I
Mhm.
think you got deals, like 3 different deals from pretty much everyone there. Um, can you share a little bit about that experience? How did you contact them? Did they contact you? What did you actually end up getting the deal at the end? Like, and if yes, like what has been your experience so far?
Yeah, I mean, it's a truly tremendous experience being on the show. We auditioned twice, well, once and didn't make it, and then came back and auditioned the next year. So it's one of those things like just, keep trying. But I mean, the impact our business has been incredible. I mean, it's from a sales standpoint. It actually just aired 2 nights ago. And I mean, every time it airs, our sales,
Okay.
spike pretty significantly, at least 2 or 3 times normal.
Wow.
So I can always tell when I see it. I'm like, oh, we must have aired on like a rerun or CNBC or whatever. So I
And
mean,
and
that's,
that and that spike is like a week worth of spike, a month worth of spike, a day worth of spike.
well, it'll be a day. So like
Okay,
every
a day.
day, I
Okay,
look at our sales every day. So it'll just
okay,
be like, if we air at 8 p.m. or whatever, 8:30, there'll
okay.
be just this huge spike. So it's really fun. It's like, oh, our
Mm.
episode must have
Hmm.
aired tonight because so far we'll see little spikes for different things. Something goes on, TikTok or whatever. But when it's like really like 3 times the daily sales or something like that, the initial, bump we got was huge when it
Right.
was the first airing of it. It was wild. We did like, I don't know, 3 or 4 months of sales in one night or something crazy, but it's kind of the gift that keeps on giving. So I mean, that's been the biggest benefit. We also, I think the credibility of being on the show has led to a lot of really exciting B2B opportunities. We're working with Target, we're working with Walmart, like all those things I think came out of the show. And just being able to say like we were on Shark Tank and we got all these deals and opportunities. So
But
yeah,
did
it's been a really cool.
but did you actually end up signing the deal with them or no?
So we didn't end up,
Okay.
we didn't close the deal. And it's for, a lot of different reasons. I think on both sides, it just ultimately wasn't exactly the opportunity that either of us really, were looking for at the moment. I think just as we kind of got through it and got down to the weeds of like where their experience was, what their vision was for kind of growth and where they could take, their relationships, licensing, things like that wasn't exactly aligned with what we
Mm.
were interested in doing for growing the business. So, but it's all good. We're still, we're on great terms. It was very much a happy kind of mutual. A lot of the deals on Shark Tank actually don't close
Yeah, yeah,
um, for
yeah,
whatever reasons, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just that
yeah,
it's a TV show. It's
yeah.
fun. It's exciting. It gives you tremendous visibility. We got everything out of it. Really, we wanted to. I think not having to give away a part of our company was, and still getting kind of all of the bump of the show and excitement. It's really, I think, a best case scenario.
I'm very curious, like when you go on that show, like do you only get to interact with sharks while you're making your pitch? Like you don't have any contact with them before the show, after the show. You're there, you're making the pitch, whatever deal is there, and then you're on your way.
That's it. Yeah,
Okay.
they never have any information about you until you walk through those doors. So it really is an honest, assessment as you see. It's certainly edited. I mean, we were in there. We were actually not in there that long. We were probably only in there half an hour. They edited it down to 10 minutes or
Mm,
whatever. But I know other people are in there for like an hour and a half
mm,
and they edited it down to 10 minutes. So there's a lot that in a lot of context and there's some context that they cut out of ours. But I think generally they did a great job with editing our episodes. So some people kind of get edits where I think it makes, it's more dramatic or
mhm.
whatever. But yeah.
So I know your products are also in different retail stores.
Mhm.
Could you share a little bit about what was the process? Was it really just about picking up the phone, calling these retailers, buyers, and making the pitch to them, or was it something else?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it was hustle and just, in the beginning, going around Houston, talking to retailers. We at the juvenile products trade show, we met some of those contacts several years ago and just stayed in touch, as we got kind of down the road and down the process of having more of a product. And, we kind of followed up with them and said, hey, we've got a product now. Would you work with us? So a lot of that is, I think a lot of that B2B relationship is networking.
Hmm.
You can find people on LinkedIn, find the buyers and connect with them that way. So that I think was more in my wheelhouse, being kind of in the corporate world. It's a little bit easier to sort of navigate those conversations. Um, but Yeah, I would say that was it. I mean, we got a break at one point very early on with Bye Bye Baby, which is a great store for us, to get online. And then we found out that stores at Bye Bye Baby, they have kind of a very federated model where every store is allowed to make their own buying decisions. So, one example of hustle, like we got on the phone and we called every single store in the country. There's like 125 Bye Bye Baby stores.
Hmm.
We called them all. We just like cut the list up, and every day we called a few and just talked to the manager of the store and said, hey, would you like to try it? Would you like to bring it in store and try it? We think it would do really well in your car seat section. Here's what it is. Here's why it's great. And I think we probably got like, 25, 30 stores to opt in. And then we're able to go back to the buyer at the corporate level and say, hey, we've got 30 stores, selling our product. It's going well. They're reordering. And so some of that, it's like you kind of make your own success. And I think that that's true. It's not true with everything, but I think with retail, especially, retailers are busy. They don't always have the time to sort of like do the legwork. And so if you can just make it easy for them and sort of feed them data and sort of, you do the hustle in a sense, I think that they're happy to support you and they, continue to be a great partner for us.
Do you consider yourself an entrepreneur, a mompreneur? Of course, this is like your full-time thing. How much time do you spend every day on the business itself? Is it like a full-time thing for you? Or what do you think? Like, I mean, from my perspective, it seems like a pretty much a dream. You can do this from home. You can take care of your kids. How do you see this thing?
Yeah, I feel really, really fortunate. It wasn't a full-time thing, honestly, until probably last year. Prior to that, for the first, I'd say, 3 years or so of the business, I did it part-time. And that was really just, because I have a family with 2 young kids and we kind of needed the cash flow and, businesses take a while to get, up and running and profitable. So for those first few years, I was doing it part-time, which, before COVID sort of looked like going to work and then coming home and working late at night, working at the weekends. When you've got little kids, it can be easy, it can be hard, sleep gets sacrificed. I did try to cut back work a little bit and work more part-time and then have a little, a day or so a week where I could really focus on the business. So that worked out pretty well. And then finally, we fortunately got into a point last year where we were ready to kind of go all in on it. I've actually brought my husband on now. He's kind of left his full-time job. And so both of us are in it. We've got some really cool growth ideas this year. So it took a while. It took a lot of patience to sort of wait until we were, ready at that point. But yeah, now it's full-time and it's nice that my husband is in it with me because we're able to balance the day, the week, the hours, one of us can pick up the kids and the other can keep working. So it still remains a juggling act of all the things in the business and it ebbs and flows. Some days, it's really busy. There's a lot going on. Other days things seem to be in a bit of a coasting mode. So we're working on some new products now. So that's kind of the focus now. So it's fun.
Cool.
Feel very lucky.
So do you pay yourself and your husband, like, do you every month when you do like accounting, do you pay yourself the salary first and then based on whatever is remaining, I'm sure there's some sort of investment that goes inside the business again. Can you share a little bit about that? Like now that you're, completely focused, both people in the business.
Yeah, I mean, we started taking a salary pretty early on, and it wasn't much. I mean, it was not a livable wage for my family, which is why I continued to work, my corporate jobs. But we did, and I think that's important for the business because I think when you don't pay yourself a salary, someone has to run the business, and so you end up overstating your profit a bit by kind of hiding that in. And if you're a single proprietor, you're a single entity, it doesn't really matter because you're paying yourself out of the profit anyway. But we have a partnership, so my mom and I are business partners. So we've been paying ourselves, and so now we're sort of at a point where I think we're paying. Last year is sort of myself a competitive salary for kind of running this business. My mom takes a small salary. This year, my husband is taking a small salary, and mine came down a little bit. So we've kind of managed what we think the business can afford and what's appropriate for someone running this business. At the end of the day, my husband and I, it doesn't really matter because we're on the same team. And then we take profit distributions whenever we can. And so those are kind of irregular. And to your point, it depends on how much needs to go back into the business. So if things are kind of quiet and there's not a lot going on, like we've taken some nice profit distributions, we're coming up on kind of some new product opportunities. We're probably going to have to order some inventory. So I'll probably keep more of the cash in the business, and we may go for a few months without taking profit out, just if we need to reinvest it. So it just depends on sort of where things are at. But those are all the levers, right? I mean, that you have to kind of balance, payroll, which is, you kind of got to make payroll every month, versus profit. You can kind of take your time and pay out when you have extra cash flow.
So I know you mentioned new products. When I went on your website, to me it seemed like there was this product. I believe there's another product that holds like a baby bottle or something in the car. And then there were other products that were not necessarily, I think they were not your brand, but they were just other products in the I guess children and car supplies kind of things, safety, that I'm assuming you're buying wholesale and selling it yourself.
For the most part, yeah. So right now we've done a lot of quick expansion with partnerships with different brands, mostly friends of ours that sell similar products in the same space. So so we haven't yet. I mean, we're working right now on the new products that will be our products, and so we'll probably continue to have that sort of shop store in the category, but we'll develop more of our own stuff.
Are most of your sales like direct to consumer through your own website, Amazon, or is it through retail?
Mostly through Amazon at this moment.
And are you happy with Amazon?
Amazon's always a love-hate relationship. It's good until something goes wrong and your listings get suppressed for something and you're off Amazon. So I don't like, them having the control of the sales channel. But yeah, it's great. I mean, I wouldn't be where we are without Amazon. I think Amazon really enables more niche kind of small products to succeed. I think that, we do have our own direct to consumer channel through our own website, but it's expensive to try to get consumers to come to your website. And then by the time, they place, it's a difficult, it's an expensive sales channel to sell an inexpensive product. So that's been where Amazon has really enabled us to thrive.
I'm very curious about your fulfillment and shipping. So on your website, I think if I order the product, I think the product itself was like about $15 or so, 14 something, and then the shipping was around $14 something also. But on Amazon,
for the US,
I think so. I'll have to check again. I think it was.
It shouldn't be $14. It's like $3.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Maybe it was. I'm in Canada, so maybe that's.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So Canada. Yeah. So to get it to Canada, we have to pay international shipping. So it is, I think, $13 or $14. Sorry.
Okay. And
but within the US, it's like $3.
Okay. That makes sense then. But on Amazon, of course, it's free. Do you ship like both your website orders and Amazon orders through like the same? I believe I think I read you have a shipping partner, like a fulfillment company or something.
Yeah, we do. We have a fulfillment partner that works with us, but we ship to Amazon. So we do FBA mostly.
Okay. And FBA is does it cost more than the fulfillment company? Why wouldn't you like just use FBA for like all your orders?
Well, there's a few reasons. I think, it adds cost, right? Because if you end up shipping FBA orders outside, like if someone orders through my website, to have Amazon ship it out, there's just an additional cost on that. So I'm paying to ship it to Amazon, and then I'm paying Amazon to ship it out. So it's sort of double paying for that. So that would be more expensive in that instance.
So you're shipping US and Canada. Do you also ship do you ship globally? Do you ship international markets also?
We do a little bit. If there's demand, it's expensive. So it's not a key focus for us. We're really focused on the US market for the most part. Car seat buckles also are designed a bit differently internationally. Some of them are similar, but some of them are different. So something to consider. We've really mostly focused on the US market.
Perfect. I know in every entrepreneur's journey, there's always, it's not always straightforward. There's mistakes, there's failures, there's lessons learned. Could you share like your biggest failure or mistake while you were creating this business? What have you learned in the process, and what can other entrepreneurs learn with that?
Yeah, this is a great question. I mean, my inclination, I guess, is, and my style is sort of to do things myself and to try to figure out how to do them rather than hire people. And part of that's because we have a very inexpensive product, so we haven't had the margin to be able to hire, experts in different fields. So I've had to sort of figure out a lot on our own. And so, there's been, lots of sort of stumbling blocks and opportunities. There's many. We initially built our website on WordPress because it was cheap. And then it was like, we went on Shark Tank and our website crashed. So I still to this day, like, lose sleep at night over, if we've lost sales from that we should have been on a, stronger kind of website provider like Shopify or something. So little things like that. We started out manufacturing in the USA, which was important to us. It was nice. We could do kind of little small production runs. We were still nervous about investing a lot of our own capital in this since we are self-funded. So we liked having our kind of domestic partner, but very kind of quickly got to the point right before Shark Tank, actually, and part of this is COVID related, but they decided to basically close their injection molding business. And so we got left in a lurch a little bit with that. And even prior to that, the tool just, logistical things around manufacturing, ejector pins breaking and running out of colorant and supply chain. So our supply chain was very shaky, I would say, pre Shark Tank. And then we kind of got hit hard when we went on the show, and it was like we were back ordered for, I think, most of the summer. So it took us a while to sort of transition. We finally did go overseas. We've got a fantastic manufacturing partner now that's like, just we'll never run out of inventory again. So those were kind of early. Yes, it's in China.
Okay.
Those were kind of early struggles that I think a lot of small businesses go through before you kind of get things cooking and firing on all cylinders. So, they're all just, they're nothing that you really, everybody's going to have those sort of trip ups. There's not a lot to say, that to avoid other than just, take it as it comes, try to anticipate sort of those disruptive moments. I mean, having a solid supply chain is, I think, like, priority number one in the beginning. If you've got a consumer product, like you can't do marketing, you can't do anything else if you don't have a product that's reliably available. So that's been a headache for us. And we finally, a couple of years ago, got that straightened out. So.
Very curious, did COVID affect your supply chain at all? Or did during the COVID time, did your sales go up? Did it affect your sales at all or not?
It did. Yeah, no, it didn't give us a bump per se. I think people, stopped traveling, kids stopped going to school, grandparents stopped seeing their children or grandchildren. So all those things negatively impacted sales.
Okay.
But it was when we went on Shark Tank. We aired in May of 2020. So a lot of eyeballs on TVs. Everybody was home. So we certainly got a big sales bump from that. And then supply chain wise, we had a lot that we were dealing with kind of behind the scenes. And so I think, just as I mentioned, like getting that call from our US manufacturer, like 2 weeks before we aired, saying they were closing, we were like, he's like, well, we'll finish the run, but like, you're kind of in a lurch. So, we definitely had some hiccups there, but fortunately kind of got through it in the fall of 2020. And then 2021 was our best year we've ever had by a long stretch. So I think a lot of businesses just kind of popped back in 2021. Consumer spending, increased a whole lot. The market rebounded. So, things have been really, really good. And we're hoping 2022 is also a good year for us.
Cool. So now we're going to move on to the rapid fire round, where I'm going to ask you a few quick questions and you have to answer them in one word or one sentence.
Okay.
The first one is a book that you would recommend to entrepreneurs or business people in 2022, and why? Are you a big book reader?
I used to be before I had kids. Now I'm just so exhausted. I don't read as much, but I did just finish a book a couple weeks ago called The Exitpreneur's Playbook. And I think it's a great book. A friend recommended it to me as I'm sort of thinking about when's the right time for us to potentially exit our business. But it's a great book to read even just early on, because it has some really great things to think about as you're scaling and running your business, things to, position yourself well for an eventual exit. So I think the author is Joe Valley, and it's a great book. It's easy read, and I'll definitely keep it on my nightstand as a reference if and when I get kind of down that road.
An innovative product or idea in the current e-commerce, retail, or tech landscape that you feel excited about?
So many. Gosh, I don't know. This is a good one. A tech product or, I think ways of reaching customers. I've started working more closely with Klaviyo for email and Attentive for kind of SMS marketing. I think that there's some really good players out there that are trying to make it easier for small businesses to sort of cultivate that customer relationship and sort of nurture the flow. So I think those are some opportunities that we're definitely leaning into for this year.
A business or productivity tool or software that you would recommend for productivity?
For productivity, gosh, any of the Google products. I'm a big fan of Google Drive. Email, chat. We use a lot of their products. I don't know. I'm not great at productivity.
A startup or business that you think is currently doing great things?
I'll say Bug Bite Thing. They were on Shark Tank the same season we are, and I think Kelly's doing a great job with that company. I'm inspired by them because they also have like a one SKU kind of hero product that they're just doing incredible things. It's that section tool for bug bites. I use it personally with my kids, and I've been really inspired by everything that they've got going on over there.
Do you use TikTok for your business?
We do a little bit. I wouldn't say often. It's a budding, but it's funny. If I do see a big bump or a little bump kind of in Amazon sales for the day, something happened on TikTok.
Okay. Final question, best business advice you ever received or you would give to other entrepreneurs?
That's a good one. I think it's Lori Grenier, maybe, that says invent for a problem, or invent for a need, not a want. And I think that's a good one. Is sort of the most successful products, I think, solve a real problem, more than just a nice to have, like something that's really bothering people or bothering you. If you can come up with a solution to it, that's what people will pour over money for. Especially when times get tough. It's like, I still need that thing. I can't do without it, versus the nice to have.
Perfect. Those were all the questions that I had. Thank you so much for your time today, for sharing your story, for all the different strategies and tactics for other entrepreneurs that you shared with us. So really appreciate your time today, and thank you for everything. So
of course, yeah, nice to meet you. Thank you.
Likewise.